My name is Rod and this is the Oracle Boat Shop. So a little bit something different today, something simple, a little short video. So after, I don't know, I'd say at least 22 years, I've had a little disc sander, belt sander, which I use quite a bit in the shop. Now I know the disc sander is quite a culprit for creating a lot of dust. It gets blown all over the shop. I do try to hook it up to a vacuum system, but sometimes I just can't be bothered to turn it on. So sometimes shelves over there are just caked in dust. I did a bit of cleaning yesterday, and the reason for that is my little disc sander that I bought from Canadian Tire, probably a couple $100 back in the time, has died. Now, I went and looked around at a bunch of different disc sanders, and it seems that the one I had was 8-inch disc and a 48-inch belt, but they don't make them anymore that size. You can either get a 6, a 4, or upgrade to a 10-inch, which is what I did. So what I picked up here this morning is the Ricon from Lee Valley, and I'm not sure really who else is selling the Ricons. I check online to sort of do price comparison kind of stuff, and I found no other dealer, and I really wanted a disc that was bigger than 4 inches or even 6, considering I had 8 before. So now this bad boy is not cheap compared to the smaller ones at your local, Home Depots and stores like that. You can get a 4-inch for maybe $250 Canadian plus tax, $350 if you want to go a little bigger. This one was $800. Now it's not exactly the amount or money I really wanted to spend, but I actually kind of needed this disc sander for the project I'm working on, or a disc sander, and I didn't want to compromise and go with a cheap little 4-inch. So now it's considerably bigger than the one I had before, and it's going to take up a little more bench space, no doubt about that. So let's just see if we can get this puppy out of the box, because it is not light. Of course, it's so packed in there with styrofoam, the only way to get them out of the box is either cut the box open or lift it straight out, and that's not exactly easy to do when the sucker's heavy. All right, well, got it out of the box. Now to get it up on the bench. Here, my back's gonna do it. Oh my God, it's heavy. Okay, I'm up. Well, let's start with the manual here. See where everything goes, what part goes where. Pretty sure I can figure it out, but first step is attach the sanding disc. Next is a table here, which is nice. It's just little knobs, so easy to undo and remove. Of course, the only question is, it's a little different than the last one in that the dust goes under, through there and down into the dust collection and sort of chute. Previous one just had a cover on here, which I made a bigger piece for because it didn't seem to work very well. We shall see how much dust actually just gets blown everywhere. They really do need to figure out how to take better pictures as these manuals, because everything's just black there. I can't tell sort of what is what, but And better to look at just the picture here to see that there's two supports. They go into these bolts here. I'm pretty sure we have 4 of those hex bolts for that. I like the fact that there's 2 knobs here, and the last one I had was just a pivot on one end. It was obviously a smaller table, but you know, because it's only pivoting on one side, you could kind of force down on this side. It's away from the locking mechanism. Now I'll put the table on. Nice heavy table there. Apparently these hex nuts are front of the table, and these to go in here. All right, now we can adjust the distance from the sanding disc to the table itself. So space down there says 1/16. I cannot see how we're going to get this table any closer than what it is. Okay, well, that's as close as it goes. That distance there looks greater than that distance, and if I'm using a miter gauge, we are going to get narrow as we come across. So if I set that dead on 90, come on, it's ridiculous. So when you set that, tighten it down, it doesn't slide. Interesting. I'd say we're pretty well dead on as far as you can't slide the miter, because as soon as you loosen it to come off, it loses its 90 degrees. How strange. Anyhow, I don't know what the hex nuts were for, because there were no hex nuts. Another question is, are we perfectly vertical? No. That's as high as it can go. And that is off by a few, 2 or 3 degrees. Okay, one small washer in there certainly helped, but I suspect we're going to have to add another one. Okay, so after a lot of fuss trying to washers below, I'm actually over 90 degrees. So that's good because I can actually lower it down. So that's 90 there. We're off by 1 degree. So I can just adjust the indicator ever so slightly. Well, that took a lot longer than I figured it would. 1, because I'm not reading the instructions fully, which is, you know, quite the man thing to do. Or the male, that's quite the male thing to do. mostly it took taking the table off again, on again, off again, on again, trying to sort out why it's not going 90 degrees. It is now 90 degrees, and I only have a few extra parts left over. Alright, it's all assembled and ready for use. Now here's a few things that I kind of would like to point out. For the money I spent, I would have expected that the setup of the table here would have been a little bit more accurate. I don't think I should have had to add washers to the base brackets there so that the table could actually come up to 90 degrees. I would have thought that, you know, in the milling process here, or in the manufacturing process, that once the table is lifted up to the full extension of the arms down below, it would be at 90 degrees, and anything after that. I may still play with the washers a little bit. I would like it to be so that when you loosen these and lift the table up, it's at 90 degrees. Right now, if I lift it up all the way, it goes maybe 1 degree above 90 degrees. But we'll work on that. The other thing was the miter. When I put this into the slot, it turns out that the sliding piece is actually lower than the table, so that when you tighten down the bottom of this, you're actually clamping the base of this to the table itself, not to the sliding T-bracket in there. So what I ended up doing, quite simply, was to raise it off. I just put a washer under, and then find the hole there. Then with the washer on top, not that one, that they provide. This way, when I'm set at 90 degrees and it's tightened down, I'm actually able to slide the miter in there. Now the purpose of that is, in my opinion, is if I got a smaller piece of lumber like this, I don't want to just be pushing it in straight into the same area of the sanding disc. I kind of want to be able to slide it back and forth a little bit, so I'm using multiple area of the disc. Other than that, it's a heavy-duty unit for sure. I don't know, I don't own any other Ricon tools. I know they're out there. They're just not widely available here in Canada. So this will be a bit of a test. And if you liked the video, please consider giving me a thumbs up and maybe becoming a subscriber for future videos, mostly on boat building. See you next time.